Hello there. In this video I wanted to look at Material Design's website, which is Google's open source design system, and this is Material 3. And in particular I wanted to look at the states that they've got in here. So everyone that's used to building out a design system knows that different components have different states, and I think the way that they have described and laid out this page and documented the different states is really good. And this is a great resource if you're looking to build out the states in your design system and you're unsure for certain components what states they should have. This is always a nice place to go. Google have established this over many years and it's a great starting point. Okay, so let's have a look at the page. So I'm on the states page here, and there is a brief overview here. There is a design kit link here which takes you to, I'm pretty sure it's Figma. Yep, so you can download Material 3's design kit if you really want to and pop that in Figma. So by clicking open in Figma here, I'm just going to close that for now. So as I scroll down here, it's giving me some definitions of some of the states that Material uses. So we've got enabled, disabled, hover, focused, let's keep scrolling, activated, pressed, and the last one here is dragged. So let's go to up next. So on the next tab that we have here is state layers. A state layer is a semi-transparent covering on an element that indicates its state. State layers provide a systematic approach to visualizing states by using opacity. A layer can be applied to an entire element or in a circular shape, and only one state layer can be applied at a given time. So there's a lot more detail here on state layers, how they work. They've got some imagery in here as well. So I'd encourage you to visit this page and have a read through. I'm not going to read it all out to you because it's there, it's available on the internet. The one that I do want to go to is applying states. Now, what I really like about this page is we've got a little menu here on the right hand side, and it's giving us each of our states. So we've got enabled, disabled, hover, focused, activated, pressed and dragged. And as I scroll the page, it gives you some really useful examples of the different states, and in some cases it gives you great examples of how not to apply the state as well, which I think is very important. So let's start off with enabled. An enabled state communicates an interactive component or element. Enabled states use the default styling for each interactive component. So as you can see here on the right, it's given us an example of enabled states across these different components. So now onto disabled. A disabled state, also known as an inoperable state, communicates when a component or element isn't interactive. Inoperable states are de-emphasized by reducing the enabled state to 38% of the opacity. Now, as you can see, here's an example of a disabled button here on the right hand side. It does give you some useful guidance here that disabled and inoperable states do not need to meet contrast requirements. So that's a little bit there on the accessibility side of things. So as you can see here on the right, it's giving us some examples of that disabled state being implemented. Now just beneath that, it's telling us that inoperable states aren't inherited by communication, containment, navigation or some action components. And now it's giving us an example of things that do not inherit that disabled state. And this is really good for designers and developers because you're giving kind of the do's and don'ts of how you use these different states in the design system. And here, as you can see, there's an example of a button and how the disabled state should be implemented. Okay, and there's another example image just here of how that can be implemented as well. Right, onto hover. So hover states are initiated by the user pausing over an interactive element by using a cursor. Okay, this is some examples of the hover state being implemented. So we've got buttons, cards, checkboxes, chips, date and time pickers, and there's a few more in the list here. I've got an example here in the image of how the hover state has been implemented. Let's just scroll down. Hover states and where they shouldn't be used, so app bars, badges, menus. And if you're not sure what any of these things are, like an app bar or a badge, go into the search field here and type in app bar, and what it will do is it will take you to the page related to the app bar and what it is and how it can be used. Okay, let's go down to the behavior. So let's watch the animation here. So as you can see, when the cursor goes into the area of the button, it changes the state to hover. Just scroll down a little bit here. So it's just explaining here, hover states can be combined with focused, activated, selected, or pressed states as well. And there can only be one hover state at one time in a layout. Okay, let's go down to focused. A focus state communicates when a user has highlighted an element using the keyboard or voice. Focus states apply to all interactive components. Okay, so scrolling down, we've got the usual list here: buttons, cards, checkboxes, chips, and so on. So it's saying here that focus states aren't inherited by most communication, containment, or navigation components, and there's a list here of what will not use the focus states. Okay, so onto the behavior. Focus states are initiated by the user by pressing the tab key on the keyboard or the equivalent. And as it says here, only one focus state at one time in a layout. Right, onto activated. Activated states indicate which item from a set of options is currently being viewed. They are initiated either by default or user choice using input methods such as tap, cursor, keyboard, or voice input. Here we've got an activated tab and what that looks like. So we've got some examples here of the activated state. So a navigation bar, drawer, and a rail, some tabs as well. Let's scroll down. Activated states aren't inherited by communication, containment, selection, or input components. And there's a list of components just here. And going down to behavior, in this example we can see here it's showing you the behavior of an activated state. Okay, and it just says here activated states can be represented in combination with hover or focus states. And we've got a couple of screenshots here as well showing the activated state. Okay, onto pressed. A pressed state communicates a user initiated tap or click via the cursor, keyboard, or voice input. This state applies to all interactive components. There's a little screenshot here of what a button looks like when it's being pressed. Some components such as button or cards can inherit elevation to signify a press state. And I guess that's shown here in the mock-up that they've put on the right. Okay, so press states are inherited by action, selection, and some containment components. And here's the list of components that it applies to. So button, cards, checkboxes, chips, list items, text fields. Okay, and some elements that don't inherit this press state: app bars, badges, bottom navigation, and so on. I really like this document. It's going into a lot of detail. It's kind of telling you the do's and don'ts. It's giving you clear definitions of what each state is. And as I scroll, I really like the behavior example when there's an animation here on the right, and it shows you how this press state should be implemented and what it looks like. So this is really useful in a design system for designers or developers because we're given clear guidelines on how each of these states should work in our designs. Okay, let's keep scrolling. It's showing press states can be combined with hover, focused, activated, or selected. And there's an example here. There may only be a single press state at one time, and it's showing us there in the example on the right. And let's move on to the last one, which is dragged. A drag state occurs when a user presses and moves on an element or component. Drag states should be low emphasis to avoid distracting users from their task. And there's a mock-up here on the right of what drag looks like. So dragged states are inherited by some containment and selection components, so cards, chips, list items, and sliders. So some elements that don't inherit the drag state: app bars, badges, buttons, dialogues, menus, navigation bar, drawer, and rail. And those are different components within material. Let's scroll down and let's see the example. Drag states are initiated when users touch and hold elements using an input method such as a tap or a click. And that's a nice example here on the right. Okay, there may only be one single drag state at a time within a layout. And that's it, we're at the bottom. So that's it, that's all the states in material. So I think this is a really great page. It's a great resource. It's free, it's out there on the internet, anyone can access it. So if you're building a design system, or if you want some ideas, or if you want to see how other people are doing it, I think Material is a great place to go. It's developed by Google. Everyone probably knows who Google is by now. So that's it for the states. I would encourage you to visit Material and have a poke around and see all the different components, the states, the things that they do, and maybe you'll get some inspiration for your own design system or some ideas for some new components that you're going to build in the future. Okay, well, thanks for getting to the end of this video. If you've got any resources or design systems or just cool design things that you want to share, drop them in the comments below. It'd be great to see them. Okay, so that's it for this video. Like and subscribe, add some comments, check out some other videos on my channel, and I will see you in the next video. You're pulling me through. I swear that it's true. My focus is you.